Min Jae Park had a rule about black women. He didn't hire them at his accounting firm, didn't let them audit his books, didn't even acknowledge their applications to Park and Associates, the mid-sized firm his family ran in Atlanta's Buckhead district. It wasn't loudly stated. It lived in the quiet rejections, the mysteriously lost resumes, the not a cultural fit conversations that happened behind closed doors. His mother wanted to murder him. Real quick, before this story begins, I want you to do something immediately. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Comments fuel these stories. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button because what happens next will leave you speechless. One lunch, she said that Tuesday, blocking his office door like a tiny Korean linebacker. 1 hour with Becky Morgan. Min Jae didn't look up from his spreadsheet. Tax season was coming. Numbers needed reconciling. Rich people needed their money hidden in legal ways. No. She teaches 6th grade at Cascade Elementary. One teacher of the year. Volunteers at the animal shelter. Makes her own kimchi. Why would I care if she makes, wait, she's not Korean? She learned. Took a class. Said she wanted to understand her students better. His mother smiled wickedly. Hers is better than yours. Min Jae finally looked up. That's impossible. Taste test. But Saturday. I'm not going on a blind date because of kimchi. His mother's expression went cold. Your father's last words to me were, make sure our son doesn't die alone with his calculator. You're 36, Min Jae. Your only relationship is with Excel spreadsheets. I'm focused on building the business. The Choi family's daughter is getting married. The Lee's son just had twins. Everyone asks me when you're settling down and I have to smile and lie. She crossed her arms. One lunch. If it's terrible, I'll never ask again. If you don't show up, I'm telling grandmother you're the one who crashed her Lexus last year. Min Jae's blood went cold. You said we'd take that to our graves. Funny how graves open when people don't cooperate. She left his office humming. Min Jae sat there, trapped between a blind date and his grandmother's wrath. He'd chosen the Lexus over the blind date literally any other time in his life. But grandmother still brought up that scratch on the bumper at every family dinner. One lunch. 2 hours maximum. Then back to his comfortable, organized, black woman-free existence. He told himself this until Saturday, when everything went sideways. The restaurant was in East Atlanta. Soul food place called Busy Bee Cafe. Min Jae walked in wearing his most expensive suit and immediately realized he'd made a tactical error. Everyone stared. Not because he was Korean, because he looked like he was about to audit their taxes and repossess their grandmother. You Min Jae? The hostess looked him up and down. Becky said you'd be the most uncomfortable-looking Asian man in Buckhead. Guess she was right about the uncomfortable part. Wrong about the Buckhead part. Is she here? Oh, she's here. The hostess grinned. Good luck, honey. That should have been his first warning. Becky wasn't at a table. She was in the kitchen. Min Jae could see her through the service window, wearing a Busy Bee t-shirt and an apron, arguing with a man twice her size about the correct way to season collard greens. I'm telling you, Mr. Willie, you're using too much salt. Girl, I've been making greens since before you were born. And you've been making them wrong. Let me show you. She grabbed the spoon from his hand. Mr. Willie looked ready to have a stroke, but then he tasted what she'd made. His expression changed. Okay, that's actually better. I know. Becky turned and spotted Min Jae standing there like a lost accountant. Oh snap. You actually came. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked out to meet him. Becky Morgan was not what Min Jae expected. She was short, maybe 5'3", with natural hair in a high puff and the kind of energy that suggested she just finished running a marathon and was considering running another one for fun. She wore mismatched socks under her Crocs. Teacher energy. Chaos energy. So you're the guy who doesn't hire black people? Becky said cheerfully. Min Jae choked on air. Excuse me? Your mom told me. Well, she didn't say it like that. She said you had traditional preferences, which is old person code for, my son is probably racist, but I love him anyway. Becky grabbed 2 plates from the counter. Come on. Food's getting cold. She led him to a booth in the back. Min-jae sat down, completely derailed. My mother told you I was racist? She said you were complicated. I translated. Becky pushed a plate toward him. Fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread. We can fight after. I don't want to fight. Sure you do. You walked in here looking like you were about to calculate the exact monetary value of everyone's soul. She bit into her chicken. How's the firm? Still rejecting qualified applicants because their names sound too ethnic. Min-jae's face went hot. We have diversity initiatives. You have one black employee. Shanice. She does reception. That's not diversity, that's tokenism with a nameplate. How do you know about Shanice? I know Shanice. Her daughter's in my class. Becky pointed her fork at him. 6th grade. Sweet kid. Wants to be a scientist. Her mom works 2 jobs to keep her in private school because the public school in her district has asbestos and no art program. Min-jae had no idea what to say to that. Your mother, Becky continued, came to our school career day. Talked about immigrating to America. About your dad working 3 jobs to put you through college. About sacrifice and family. She paused. Then she asked if I knew any nice single women for her son. I said, what about me, as a joke. She said, perfect. That sounds like her. So here we are. You, looking like you'd rather be auditing a tax return. Me, wondering if I should have worn something that wasn't covered in collard green juice. Becky leaned forward. Real talk? I came because your mom was nice and I felt bad saying no. But I don't date men who think I'm a diversity checkbox. So let's eat this food, pretend we tried, and never speak of this again. She was giving him an out. Min-jae should have taken it. Should have nodded, eaten quickly, and left. Instead, he said, the kimchi thing. Did you really learn to make it? Becky's eyes narrowed. Are you testing me? My mother claims yours is better than mine. That's mathematically impossible. Mathematically impossible? Becky laughed. It was loud and unself-conscious and made heads turn. Oh, you're one of those guys. Everything's a formula. Kimchi has specific ratios. Kimchi has feeling. You can't spreadsheet feeling. That's not how food works. That's exactly how food works. Becky was grinning now, animated. You know what your problem is? You think life is a balance sheet. Everything has to add up perfectly. But the best stuff? The stuff that actually matters? It's messy and unpredictable and it doesn't fit in your little columns. Min-jae felt something strange happen. He was enjoying this. So what? You just throw ingredients together and hope? No, I follow my gut. There's a difference. Becky pointed at his untouched plate. Like right now. Your gut is telling you that chicken looks amazing, but your brain is calculating calories and wondering if eating soul food with a black woman violates some kind of personal policy you made up. She was reading him like a spreadsheet. Min-jae picked up the chicken. Took a bite. It was obscenely good. See? Becky looked triumphant. Sometimes you just gotta trust and eat the damn chicken. They argued through lunch. About kimchi techniques and tax policy and whether Atlanta or New York had better hip-hop. Becky had opinions on everything, delivered with the confidence of someone who'd spent years managing classrooms full of opinionated 11-year-olds. She was exhausting. She was fascinating. When the bill came, Min-jae reached for it automatically. Becky slapped his hand away. I got it. I'm not letting you pay and then tell yourself this was a business expense. That's not. Lunch meeting, potential client consultation, deduct from quarterly taxes. Becky mimicked his voice poorly. I know how you people think. You people? Accountants. Not Koreans. Keep up. She threw cash on the table. Walk me to my car? They walked out into Atlanta humidity. Becky's car was a 15-year-old Honda Civic with a "Teachers do it with class" bumper sticker and what appeared to be an entire elementary school's worth of art supplies in the back seat. This is me, she said. It's very cute. Is that shade? That sounded like shade. It wasn't shade. Becky studied him. You're weird, Min-jae Park. You showed up to Soul Food in a 3-piece suit. You argued with me about fermented vegetables. And you're still standing here instead of running back to Buckhead. Maybe I'm waiting to see if you'll admit my kimchi is better. Your kimchi tastes like sadness and overachievement. Min-jae laughed. Actually laughed. When was the last time he'd done that? Becky's expression softened. You know what? You're not as terrible as I thought you'd be. Still probably racist, but like, working on it racist. Not hopeless racist. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in months. That's sad, dude. She opened her car door. Tell your mom the lunch happened. Tell her we're incompatible. She'll believe you. Min-jae should have said okay. Should have let her drive away. Instead, he said, what if I want to prove my kimchi is better? Becky paused, half in her car. What? Cook-off. My place. Next Saturday. Are you asking me on a second date disguised as a competitive cooking situation? I'm asking if you're confident enough in your kimchi to put it to a blind taste test. Becky's eyes lit up. Oh, you're going down. I'm bringing my students to judge. Absolutely not. Too late. I'm texting the parent group chat right now. She was already typing. This is gonna be amazing. Mr. Park versus Miss Morgan. Battle of the kimchi. That's not. Saturday. 2 p.m. Text me your address. She grinned. Wear something you don't mind getting kimchi juice on. This is war. She drove off, leaving Min-jae standing in the parking lot, wondering what the hell just happened. He'd come for an obligatory lunch. He'd left with a cooking competition. And a feeling in his chest that felt suspiciously like excitement. Min-jae spent Sunday researching kimchi like he was preparing for the CPA exam. He ordered 3 different types of gochugaru from specialty stores. He watched 17 YouTube videos about fermentation temperatures. He called his grandmother in Seoul at 3 in the morning her time, waking her up to ask about the proper ratio of fish sauce to salted shrimp. She hung up on him twice before staying on the line. You're making kimchi for a woman? Grandmother's voice crackled with static and judgment. It's a competition. With a woman you like. I don't like her. She's argumentative and chaotic and she wears Crocs. Your grandfather wore Crocs. I married him anyway. That's different. Is she Korean? Min-jae hesitated too long. Grandmother made a noise that could have been approval or a curse. What's her name? Why does that matter? Min-jae. Becky Morgan. Silence. Then, does she respect the cabbage? What? Kimchi starts with respect for ingredients. Does she respect the cabbage? Min-jae thought about Becky in that kitchen, arguing with Mr. Willie about seasoning, tasting and adjusting with the confidence of someone who understood food on an instinctive level. Yes, he said quietly. She respects the cabbage. Then maybe she respects other things too. Grandmother yawned. Don't oversalt. And Min-jae? If you're calling me at 3 a.m. about fermentation, you already lost. She hung up. Min-jae stared at his phone, then at the 6 pages of notes he'd made about kimchi preparation. He was doomed. Monday morning, Shanice stopped by his office. She never stopped by his office. Mr. Park? Got a minute? Min-jae looked up from his spreadsheet. Shanice Williams had worked reception for 2 years. She was efficient, pleasant, and he'd successfully avoided learning anything personal about her beyond her daughter's name, which his mother had forced into his brain. What do you need? Heard you met Miss Morgan. Shanice's expression was carefully neutral. My daughter Maya's in her class. Min-jae's stomach dropped. Shanice, Maya came home talking about how Miss Morgan is bringing her to some teacher's house for a kimchi cook-off. Said her teacher's gonna beat some mean accountant man in a food competition. Shanice tilted her head. Wouldn't happen to be you, would it? It's not what it sounds like. Sounds like you're letting black 6th graders into your house. That's new. Shanice's voice was light, but her eyes weren't. Maya's excited. She's never been to Buckhead. Keeps asking if we need to dress up to go to the rich neighborhood. Shame hit Min-jae like a freight train. I'll make sure she feels welcome, he said quietly. Will you? Shanice studied him. Because here's the thing, Mr. Park. You're not a bad boss. You pay well. Benefits are good. You don't yell. But you look at me every day like I'm furniture. Like I'm part of the office equipment you inherited and tolerate. That's not. Yeah, it is. Shanice's voice softened. I know about the resumes. About Keisha Andrews who applied for senior accountant. About Marcus Chen who has a black mom and an Asian dad and somehow never got past your screening process. About the pattern. Min Jae couldn't meet her eyes. But you know what? Shanice continued. Your mom came to career day. She talked to my kid. She treated Maya like she mattered. And when Miss Morgan said she was bringing students to judge this thing, your mom volunteered to help set up. Shanice paused. So maybe there's hope for you yet? Or maybe you're just doing this to impress a woman. Either way, my kid gets to see a teacher she loves happy, so I'm not complaining. She left. Min Jae sat there, staring at his spreadsheet, seeing nothing. The numbers didn't add up anymore. They never had. Saturday arrived with the inevitability of tax season. Min Jae's townhouse in Buckhead looked like a kimchi factory had exploded. His mother had arrived at dawn with supplies, his grandmother had called 3 more times with contradictory advice, and Min Jae had made 4 different batches before settling on one that didn't taste like shame and overachievement. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 p.m. Min Jae opened it to chaos. Becky stood there with 6 11-year-olds, all of them talking at once, all of them clutching clipboards like they were FDA inspectors. This is the judging committee, Becky announced. Maya, Deshaun, Carlos, Lily, James, and Priya. They're taking this very seriously. We made a rubric. Maya held up a sheet covered in glitter. We're grading on taste, texture, spice level, and creativity. Kimchi doesn't need creativity, Min Jae said automatically. That's loser talk. Deshaun pushed past him into the house. Oh, you got a chandelier. Miss Morgan, he got a chandelier. Deshaun inside voice. Becky followed her students in, carrying a large container. Nice place. Very clean. Very beige. I alphabetize my tax receipts. I do alphabetize my tax receipts. I know. I can tell. Becky set her container on the kitchen island. Okay, judges. Remember the rules. No bias. No favoritism. We're here for truth and kimchi. Min Jae's mother appeared from the dining room, carrying plates. Oh good you're here. I set up the tasting station. Becky dear, your students are beautiful. Thanks, Mrs. Park. Becky grinned. You ready to watch me destroy your son's culinary dreams? I'm ready to watch good kimchi. Who makes it doesn't matter. Min Jae looked at his mother. She smiled innocently. Traitor. The competition was absurd. Becky had made traditional Napa cabbage kimchi, but she'd added pear and apple for sweetness, and somehow it worked. The flavors were bright and alive and slightly unexpected. Min Jae had made his grandmother's recipe exactly. Precise measurements. Perfect fermentation time. Textbook technique. The kids tried both, taking their job with hilarious seriousness. Sample A is good, Priya said, writing notes. But it's like regular good. Like cafeteria pizza good. Sample B makes my mouth happy, Carlos declared. Like fireworks happy. Maya was quiet, tasting carefully. Finally, she looked up at Min Jae. Sample A tastes like someone who's afraid to make mistakes. Sample B tastes like someone who's not. The room went silent. Becky wasn't grinning anymore. She was watching Maya with the expression of a teacher seeing a student grasp something profound. Min Jae felt something crack in his chest. Sample B wins, James announced. But Sample A is good too. Just needs more confidence. The kids cheered. Becky did a victory dance. Min Jae's mother looked at him with an expression that said I told you so in Korean. Good game, Becky said, extending her hand. You almost had me scared. Min Jae shook her hand. Your kimchi is better than mine. I know. My grandmother's going to disown me. I'll send her some. We'll bond over your defeat. Becky's smile softened. Hey, you okay? Min Jae looked at the kids laughing in his kitchen. At Maya helping his mother set out drinks. At the life and noise and chaos filling his careful, controlled space. No, he said honestly. But I think I need to not be okay for a while. Becky studied him. That's the smartest thing you've said all week. If this story is resonating with you, don't hesitate to hit that like button and subscribe to Afro-Korean Love Chronicles. Drop a comment below telling us what you think about Min-jae's awakening. The kids left at 5, loaded with leftovers and stories about the chandelier. Becky stayed to help clean up. They worked in comfortable silence, washing dishes and packing containers. Maya told me you're her mom's boss, Becky said finally. Yeah. That's why you agreed to this. You knew she'd be here. Min-jae stopped washing. No. I agreed because you challenged me. Maya being here just made me realize how much I need to be challenged. Big admission from a guy who thinks life is a spreadsheet. Maybe spreadsheets are how I've been avoiding life. Becky turned off the water, drying her hands. Real talk time. Why don't you hire black people? Min-jae leaned against the counter. The truth felt heavy and ugly in his throat. My father, he said slowly, built this firm from nothing. Came to America with $200 and a dream. He worked himself to death for it. Literally. Heart attack at 53, at his desk, during tax season. Min-jae's voice cracked. And 3 months before he died, he lost his biggest client. A black businessman who decided he wanted someone who understood his community better. Took his company to a black-owned firm. Dad never recovered. The stress of losing that account killed him. Becky was quiet for a long moment. So you blamed all black people for one man's business decision. I blamed myself for not being there. For not helping more. For not being enough to make Dad's business succeed. Min-jae looked at his hands. And then I blamed everyone who looked like the man who left. Because grief is easier when you can point at something and say, that's the problem. Except it wasn't the problem. No. Min-jae's voice was barely a whisper. The problem was that Dad worked himself to death trying to prove he belonged. And I've been doing the same thing, building walls instead of businesses. Keeping people out instead of letting them in. Maya's mom, Becky said softly, is the best receptionist in Atlanta. Do you know that? Do you know she learned Korean to better communicate with your clients? That she takes night classes in accounting because she wants to move up? No. Because you never asked. You never saw her. Becky moved closer. You never saw any of them. You just saw threats to your father's legacy. To your pain. Min-jae felt tears on his face and didn't bother wiping them away. I don't know how to fix this. Start by seeing people. Actually seeing them. Becky reached out, hesitated, then took his hand. And maybe stop running cook-offs against women you're clearly interested in just to avoid dealing with your feelings. Min-jae laughed through tears. Is that what this was? Oh, absolutely. Most emotionally constipated thing I've seen in years. Becky squeezed his hand. But you showed up. You let those kids into your house. You admitted you were wrong. That's more than most people do. Is this the part where you tell me racism is solved because I cried and made kimchi? Gano. This is the part where I tell you that you have years of work ahead of you. Unpacking bias. Examining assumptions. Making amends to people you've hurt. Becky's expression was fierce. But it's also the part where I tell you that I see you trying. And that matters. Would you help me? The question came out before Min-jae could stop it. Not with us. With me. With becoming someone who deserves to run my father's firm. Us? Becky raised an eyebrow. I didn't say us. You absolutely said us. Min-jae felt his face heat. I meant. He meant us. Like there's an us. Like we're a thing. Becky was grinning now. Min-jae Park, are you asking me to date you while also asking me to help fix your racism? That's not romantic at all, is it? It's the least romantic thing ever. It's terrible. Becky laughed. But it's also honest. And I respect honest. She paused. Here's the deal. You start by really seeing your employees. Learn their names. Their lives. Their ambitions. You actively recruit black talent. You examine every policy in your firm for bias. You read books. You do the work. And then we'll see. Maybe we grab dinner. Maybe we have another food competition. Maybe I introduce you to my parents and watch you sweat through another expensive suit. Becky's smile was soft. But you don't get a relationship as a reward for basic human decency. You get a chance to be someone worth knowing. What you do with that chance is up to you. Min-jae nodded. That's fair. Also, you're taking Shanice to lunch Monday. Apologizing. And asking her what position she actually wants at your firm. I can do that. And you're reading White Fragility. Okay. And you're coming to career day at my school. In a normal shirt. Not a suit. I own normal shirts. Prove it. Becky started toward the door, then turned back. Hey Min-jae. Yeah. Today was good. Scary and messy and uncomfortable, but good. She smiled. Keep doing scary, messy, uncomfortable things. That's where the actual growth happens. She left. Min-jae stood in his too-clean kitchen, in his too-beige house, feeling like his entire life had been reorganized and he couldn't find the spreadsheet anymore. His phone buzzed. His mother, texting from the other room, "She's perfect. Don't mess this up." Then his grandmother, from Seoul, "The girl's kimchi is better. Marry her before she realizes you're boring." Min-jae laughed and cried and felt terrified and hopeful all at once. Monday morning he asked Shanice to lunch. She said yes, suspiciously. They went to the Busy Bee Cafe. Min-jae wore khakis and a normal shirt. He looked her in the eye and apologized for 2 years of invisibility. He asked what she wanted from her career. He listened. Shanice told him she wanted to be an accountant. A real one, not just the person who answered phones. Min-jae made her a promise. She'd have a desk and a title by the end of the quarter. Then he called Keisha Andrews, whose resume he'd rejected 8 months ago. He offered her an interview. A real one. Then Marcus Chin. Then 3 other candidates he'd dismissed for reasons that suddenly seemed hollow and wrong. The work was hard. Uncomfortable. It required examining parts of himself he'd kept locked away behind numbers and formulas and the ghost of his father's disappointment. But Becky was right about scary, messy, uncomfortable things. That's where the growth was. 3 months later, Park and Associates had 5 new employees. The office was louder, more diverse, more alive. Shanice had her own desk and was crushing her accounting courses. Maya visited sometimes after school, doing homework in the conference room. Min-jae still made mistakes. Still caught himself making assumptions. Still had moments where his old reflexes kicked in and he had to actively choose different. But he was choosing different. And on Saturday mornings, he went to Becky's apartment and they cooked together. Sometimes Korean food. Sometimes soul food. Sometimes terrible fusion experiments that made them both laugh. They weren't dating. Not officially. But they were building something. Slowly. Carefully. With the kind of patience that comes from understanding that some things can't be rushed or spreadsheet organized. One Saturday, while they were making japchae and arguing about the proper amount of sesame oil, Becky said, "My parents want to meet you." Min-jae's hands stilled on the vegetables. Really? Really? They've heard about the guy who lost a kimchi competition to their daughter and then had a whole racial awakening. Dad thinks it's hilarious. Mom thinks you're either genuinely trying or a really good actor. Becky looked at him. What do you think? I think I'm terrified. But that means you're taking it seriously. Becky bumped his shoulder. They're gonna grill you. Literally and figuratively. Dad's making ribs. Mom's making mac and cheese. You're gonna eat your feelings and answer uncomfortable questions about your journey toward not being casually racist. That sounds terrible. It's gonna be terrible. Becky grinned. But it's also gonna be good. You ready for good terrible things? Min-jae thought about his father, who'd worked himself to death in silence. About his own years of hiding behind numbers and prejudice. About the life he'd been living versus the life he was building now. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. Becky kissed him then. Brief and soft and tasting like sesame oil and promise. Good, she said. Because you're also bringing kimchi. Pomid. I told them yours is getting better. Is it? Little bit. Still needs work. But you're improving. She smiled. In a lot of ways. Min-jae pulled her closer. Thank you. For what? For not letting me stay comfortable. For pushing back. For seeing something worth fixing instead of someone worth leaving. Becky cupped his face. Min-jae Park, I'm not fixing you. I'm just standing here while you fix yourself. Big difference. Still. She kissed him again. Now finish those vegetables. We got japchae to make and you need to practice before you meet my dad. He's got opinions about vegetable cutting. They cooked through the afternoon. The kitchen was messy and loud and filled with the kind of comfortable chaos Min-jae used to avoid. Now he lived in it. Chose it. Wanted it. Meeting Becky's parents was exactly as terrible and wonderful as promised. Her father, James Morgan, was a retired postal worker with a handshake that could crush diamonds and a laugh that filled rooms. Her mother, Patricia, taught nursing at Spelman and had eyes that saw through every defense Min-jae tried to construct. They ate ribs and mac and cheese and collard greens in a house filled with photos and life and love. Min-jae brought his improved kimchi and endured good-natured teasing about the cook-off defeat. So, James said, halfway through dinner, Becky says you're working on yourself. Yes, sir. Working on what specifically? Min-jae set down his fork. Working on being the kind of person who doesn't let fear and grief turn into prejudice. Who doesn't use my father's pain as an excuse to cause more pain. Patricia studied him. That's a good answer. Practiced? Yes, ma'am. Practiced it 17 times on the drive over. She smiled. At least you're honest about the practice. My daughter, James said, is the best thing I ever helped make. She's brilliant and kind and she doesn't suffer fools. You know that, right? I do. And you know she doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be real. Min-jae looked at Becky, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. I'm learning that. Good. James passed him the mac and cheese. Now tell me about this firm of yours. Becky says you're actually hiring black folks now. That true? They talked for hours. About business and bias and the work of unlearning. About Min-jae's father and the immigrant experience and the ways pain gets passed down. About accountability and growth and the difference between intention and impact. It was uncomfortable. It was necessary. It was healing. When they left, Patricia hugged Min-jae tight. You're doing the work, she whispered. Keep doing it. Not for my daughter. For you. In the car, Becky took his hand. You okay? Your parents are terrifying. I know. Your dad made me promise to read 3 different books and your mom gave me her number in case I need to process anything. Sounds about right. Min-jae laughed. I like them. They like you too. Dad told me while you were in the bathroom. Said you're doing the work but still got a long way to go. Which is basically dad speak for approval. What about your mom? Mom said you make me happy. That's all she needs to know for now. Becky squeezed his hand. But she also said if you hurt me, she knows how to make a body disappear and leave no forensic evidence. She's a nursing professor. Which means she knows exactly how to do it. Becky grinned. So don't hurt me. I won't. You might. Not on purpose. But you're human and messy and still figuring stuff out. Becky's voice softened. But I think you'll try not to. And I think when you mess up, you'll own it. That's enough. Min-jae pulled into her apartment complex. Cut the engine. Turned to face her. I'm in love with you, he said. I know it's fast and I know I'm still working through things and I know I don't deserve. Becky kissed him quiet. Stop with the deserving talk. Love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. Every day. She pulled back, smiling. And yeah, I love you too. Even though you alphabetize your tax receipts and wear suits to soul food restaurants and lost to me in kimchi. I'll never live down that kimchi thing. Never ever. Becky kissed him again. Now walk me up. And maybe stay for a while. We can watch a movie. Something with explosions to balance out all the emotional processing we've been doing. They watched movies. They talked. They fell asleep on her couch with her cat, Chairman Meow, sleeping between them. And Min-jae woke up at 2 a.m. with a crick in his neck and Becky drooling on his shoulder and thought, this is what happiness feels like. Message. Unplanned. Not at all like a spreadsheet. Perfect. 6 months after the kimchi cook-off, Min-jae stood in front of his firm's conference room with his stomach in knots. Park and Associates now had 15 employees. 7 of them were black. 3 were Latino. 2 were white. The office looked different. Sounded different. Felt different. It felt alive. Today was the day he'd been dreading and planning for in equal measure. "Thank you all for coming," Min-jae said. His voice shook slightly. Becky, sitting in the back row, gave him an encouraging nod. His mother sat beside her, beaming with pride. "I called this meeting because I owe you all an explanation. And an apology." He took a breath. "For the first 3 years of running this firm, I operated from a place of fear and prejudice. I didn't hire black people. I didn't give opportunities to people who didn't look like me or fit into my narrow definition of cultural fit. I used my father's pain as justification for my own bias." The room was silent. Shanice sat in the front row, now with senior accountant on her business cards. She'd earned it. Keisha Andrews, the woman he'd rejected 8 months ago, sat beside her. She was already one of their best auditors. "Some of you know this," Min-jae continued. "Some of you suspected it. All of you deserved better." He looked at Shanice. "Shanice, you worked here for 2 years while I treated you like furniture. You learned Korean to better serve our clients while I couldn't be bothered to learn your daughter's favorite subject in school." Shanice's expression was unreadable. "Keisha, I rejected your application because your resume showed leadership in the Black Business Association and my prejudice told me that meant you wouldn't be loyal to a Korean firm." Min-jae's voice cracked. "I robbed this company of your talent for 8 months because of my fear." He went through each employee, each story, each way his prejudice had nearly kept them from opportunities they'd earned. "I can't undo those decisions," he said finally. "I can't give back the time you spent proving yourselves to someone who should have seen your value immediately. All I can do is acknowledge it, commit to doing better, and make sure this firm becomes a place where talent matters more than my comfort level." Min-jae pulled out a stack of envelopes. "To that end, I'm implementing immediate changes. First, everyone who was hired in the last 6 months is receiving back pay to account for the experience you brought that I initially refused to recognize. Second, we're establishing a diversity committee with real power to review hiring, promotion, and pay equity. Third, I'm stepping back from all hiring decisions until I've completed anti-bias training with an independent consultant." He distributed the envelopes. Watched faces change as people saw the checks inside. "This isn't reparations," he said quietly. "This is just math. You were worth this 6 months ago. You're worth this now. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." Shanice stood up. The room held its breath. "Mr. Park," she said, "can I say something? Please. You're still kind of racist." Min-jae nodded. "I know. You still got work to do. You still say stuff sometimes that makes me go, 'Really, dude?' in my head." Shanice crossed her arms. "But you're trying. And you're not pretending the trying makes everything okay. You're putting money where your mouth is. You're giving us actual power, not just a seat at a table you control." She looked around the room. "I can't speak for everybody. But I can speak for me. And I'm willing to see where this goes. As long as the work continues. As long as we get a say in what that work looks like." Keisha stood. "I second that. But I also want it on record that if this backslides, I'm out. And I'm taking clients with me." "Fair," Min-jae said. Marcus Chen, the man with the black mother and Korean father who Min-jae had rejected, raised his hand. "I want to join the diversity committee. And I want us to start a mentorship program for kids like me who don't fit neat boxes." Done. They talked for 2 hours. Employees shared experiences. Frustrations. Hopes. Min-jae listened and took notes and resisted every urge to defend or explain. This wasn't about his feelings. It was about their reality. When the meeting ended, people filed out slowly. Some thanked him. Some didn't. All of them looked thoughtful. Shanice stopped at the door. "Hey, Mr. Park?" "Yeah. Maya wants to know if you're gonna marry Miss Morgan. She's got a whole betting pool going." Min-jae felt his face heat. "We're not. She's betting yes." Says anyone who cries over kimchi is serious about the teacher who made it. Shanice smiled. Just thought you should know. She left. Min-jae stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by empty chairs and the weight of everything he'd said. Becky appeared in the doorway. You did good. I'm exhausted. Yeah, accountability is exhausting. Being vulnerable is exhausting. Growing is exhausting. She walked over, wrapped her arms around him. But you did it anyway. Some of them still don't trust me. But they shouldn't. Not yet. Becky pulled back to look at him. Trust is earned through consistent action over time. You know what consistent action over time is? What? It's the opposite of a spreadsheet. It's messy and ongoing, and there's no final calculation. She kissed his cheek. But you're doing it. And I'm proud of you. Min-jae held her tight. Maya's running a betting pool about whether I'm going to marry you. I know. I'm one of the judges. What? Kids needed adult supervision. I volunteered. Becky grinned. Also, I wanted to make sure the odds were fair. What are the odds? 60-40 in favor of yes. I'm betting no. Min-jae pulled back. You're betting against us getting married? I'm betting against you proposing in the next 6 months, which is the time frame of the pool. Becky's eyes sparkled. You're still figuring out how to be a good partner. Marriage can wait. Love doesn't need a legal document to be real. What if I wanted the legal document? Then we talk about it. Like adults. After you finish your anti-bias training, and after we've navigated at least 2 major arguments, and after you've met my extended family at the reunion this summer. Becky counted on her fingers. Also after you learn to cook something other than kimchi. I cook other things. Ramen doesn't count. What about? Rice also doesn't count. Becky kissed him. Come on. Your mom wants to take us to dinner. She's been texting me nonstop about how proud she is that you cried in front of your employees. I didn't cry. You absolutely cried. Shanice sent me a picture. You were very shiny-eyed and vulnerable. They walked out together, hand in hand, into the Atlanta afternoon. Min-jae's phone buzzed. His grandmother heard you apologized. But now work on your kimchi. Still needs improvement. Then his mother, your father would be proud. Not of the kimchi. Of everything else. Min-jae stopped walking. Read the message again. Becky squeezed his hand. You okay? Yeah, he said softly. Yeah, I think I am. 1 year after the kimchi cook-off, Min-jae stood in Becky's classroom after hours, helping her set up for the next day. Why do 6th graders need this many art supplies? He asked, organizing markers by color. Because creativity can't be standardized, Min-jae. We've been over this. Creativity still needs organization. You're organizing my chaos. That's so romantic I could cry. He threw a marker at her. She caught it, laughing. His phone rang. A known number. Hello. Mr. Park? This is David Chen. Marcus Chen's father. Min-jae's chest tightened. Mr. Chen. How can I help you? I wanted to thank you. The voice on the other end was rough with emotion. My son hasn't stopped talking about his job. About feeling seen. About finally finding a place that doesn't make him choose between his mother's family and mine. He's an incredible accountant. I'm lucky to have him. You almost didn't have him. You rejected him. I know. That was... I know why. Marcus told me. About your meeting. About the apology. David Chen paused. My wife died 2 years ago. Cancer. And I watched my son try to navigate grief while being Korean enough for my family and black enough for hers. Never just being Marcus. Min-jae listened, throat tight. What you did, admitting your mistakes, making changes, that gave my son permission to show up as himself. Fully. David's voice cracked. So thank you. For doing the work. For giving him space to breathe. Mr. Chen, let me finish. My wife used to say that the measure of a person isn't in never falling down. It's in getting up and helping others up too. The pause. You felt. You got up. You're helping. That's all any of us can do. They talked for a few more minutes. When Min-jae hung up, Becky was watching him with knowing eyes. Good call? Yeah. Min-jae wiped his eyes. Really good call. Becky walked over, wrapped her arms around him. You know what I love about you? My superior organizational skills? Besides that, she smiled. I love that you're not the same person you were a year ago. And you're not trying to pretend you were never that person either. You're just becoming someone new. Every day. Min-jae kissed her forehead. You know what I love about you? My superior kimchi? Besides that, I love that you see people. Really see them. You saw me when I was terrible and instead of walking away, you challenged me to be better. He cupped her face. You didn't fix me, but you stood there while I fixed myself. That's everything. Okay, now you're being romantic and I'm actually gonna cry. Is this a good time to tell you I'm going to win Maya's betting pool? Becky pulled back. What? Min-jae got down on one knee. Becky's hands flew to her mouth. You did not. I did. He pulled out a ring box. We met over your mother's matchmaking and my prejudice. We fell in love over kimchi and accountability and you teaching me that life doesn't fit in spreadsheets. You've watched me screw up and grow and screw up again and you never let me quit on becoming better. Min-jae, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on my bias. I still alphabetize my tax receipts. I still can't cook as well as you. But I love you. Completely. Messily. Without formulas or calculations. He opened the box. Becky Morgan, will you marry me? Becky was crying. Actually crying. You're proposing in my classroom surrounded by art supplies and spelling tests. Is that a no? This is so perfectly us I might die. She pulled him up, kissed him hard. Yes, you ridiculous, emotionally constipated, kimchi-losing, beautiful man. Yes. He slipped the ring on her finger. She tackled him with a hug that sent them both stumbling into a desk. Maya's gonna lose her mind, Becky said, laughing and crying. Shanice is gonna say, I told you so. Your mom is gonna start planning immediately. My grandmother wants to meet you in Seoul. When? Summer. After the family reunion. Min-jae grinned. She said anyone who can make better kimchi than her grandson is worth meeting. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. They sat on the floor of her classroom, surrounded by the organized chaos of 6th grade education, holding each other. Hey, Becky said softly. You know this isn't the end, right? The work continues. Marriage doesn't fix bias. It just means we do the work together. I know. And I'm still gonna call you out when you mess up. I'm counting on it. And you're still gonna have to read books and go to training and sit with discomfort. I know. Min-jae kissed her. But I get to come home to you after. And that makes even the uncomfortable stuff worth it. Becky rested her head on his shoulder. We're gonna have the weirdest wedding. Your family's gonna judge my family's collard greens. My family's gonna judge your family's kimchi. Everyone's gonna have opinions about everything. Sounds perfect. Sounds like chaos. Same thing. They sat there until the school janitor found them and asked if they needed help. They laughed and left, hand in hand, engaged and happy and ready for whatever messy, beautiful, complicated future waited. 2 years later, Min-jae stood in the kitchen of the home he shared with Becky, watching her teach their niece how to make kimchi. No, baby, you gotta massage the cabbage with love, Becky said. Like this. Gentle but firm. Like when Uncle Min-jae hugs you? The 7-year-old asked. Exactly like that. Min-jae smiled, chopping vegetables for the japchae they'd make next. Park and Associates had doubled in size. The diversity committee had real power. Shanice was now a partner. Marcus Chen ran the mentorship program that helped kids navigate multiple cultural identities. Min-jae still went to training. Still read books. Still had moments where Becky had to pull him aside and say, that thing you just said? Let's talk about why that's problematic. The work never ended. But neither did the growth. His phone buzzed. Maya, now 13 and in 8th grade. Miss Morgan, Mrs. Park, said you're doing a kimchi workshop at school next month. Can my mom come? She wants to learn. Min-jae texted back. Of course. Tell her to bring containers. We're sending everyone home with samples. Becky looked over his shoulder. You're texting my students again. Maya's worried Shanice will feel left out. Your employee is coming to your wife's classroom to learn kimchi from the man who used to not hire black people. You know how wild that sentence is? Pretty wild. I love our weird life. Becky kissed his cheek, leaving a smudge of gochugaru. Even if your kimchi still isn't as good as mine. It's close. It's not. Grandmother said it's improved. Grandmother is being nice. It's still sad. Becky grinned. But you're getting there. The doorbell rang. Min-jae's mother, arriving with containers of banchan. Becky's parents, bringing sweet tea and mac and cheese. The families had merged, chaotically and beautifully, into something neither side had expected but both had learned to love. They ate together. Korean and Southern food side by side on the same table. Different languages and different stories mixing into something new. Min-jae looked around the table at faces that a few years ago he wouldn't have let into his life. At the family he'd almost missed because of fear and prejudice and the weight of unexamined pain. Becky caught his eye. Mouthed, "You good?" He nodded. Mouthed back, "I'm perfect." And he was. Not because he'd fixed everything or become someone new, but because he'd learned to sit with discomfort, to choose growth over comfort, to love bigger than his fear. The prejudice that almost destroyed him had become the foundation for rebuilding himself into someone worth being. Someone who could make decent kimchi. Someone who could see people. Someone who could love without conditions or calculations. Someone human. Messy and imperfect and still learning. But trying. Every day. Trying. Thank you so much for watching this story. If Min-jae and Becky's journey touched your heart, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our stories. Drop a comment below telling us what moment resonated with you most. See you in the next one.